I just spent $7,000 on a camera that I have no idea how to use, and it just reminded me of people who spend $7,000 on hearing aids and hate them. Hey guys, welcome back to the Dr. Cliff AUD vlog. This is vlog number 188, and today I'm going to be complaining to you about the cost of different electronics. But before I get into the topic of today's video, do me a huge favor, click the like button, you know it helps out the channel, and make sure that you are subscribed with notifications turned on so you get a notification every single time I publish a new video. With that being said, it is greatly appreciated. Now let's go ahead and get into my complaints. So you're probably wondering right off the bat, why are you going to be complaining about, electronics and how much they cost? This is a hearing aid channel. Well, when you think about hearing aid technology, right, a lot of people tend to think of hearing aids as being really expensive pieces of tech, and they don't really understand all of the other expenses that go in to hearing aids. But I'm going to create a couple of analogies using a camera. Now, I have to say I'm a little bit embarrassed by this because I ended up buying a really nice Sony FX3 cinema camera a couple months ago. And I spent around $4,000 on this camera. I believe it was just under $4,000 I paid for this camera. And on top of that, it doesn't even come with any lenses. So I had to purchase lenses, and there's different lenses for different things. All of those lenses cost between $500 and around $1,000, depending on what you want that lens to do. And I bought a couple of different lenses for a couple of different things. Not to mention the SD cards that you need for this particular type of a camera, which will run anywhere from around $390 up to $550 or even much higher, just literally for the card that you put in to the SD card slot here. So why am I bringing all of this stuff up in terms of cost? Well, I'm probably, around $6 to $7 grand into this camera right now, and I don't even use it. Right? I don't use it because it confuses the hell out of me. The video quality is horrible, but it's not horrible based off of because of what the camera is capable of doing. It's horrible because I don't know how to use this camera correctly, and I have no one to help me. I've reached out to different people, I've reached out on forums, and basically I have no clue how to make this $7,000 setup work like a $7,000 setup. And so that really got me thinking about hearing aids and how hearing aids work. So, a lot of people spend, between $4,000 and $8,000 on hearing aids. And when you think about it, they're like, okay, so I'm spending $8,000 on hearing technology. And that hearing aid technology is not performing like I would expect it to perform for $8,000. And the difference, though, between a $7,000 camera setup and a $7,000 pair of hearing aids is that a $7,000 pair of hearing aids, if you're spending $7,000 on hearing aids, you should be getting customer service like you wouldn't believe. I'm talking concierge level of them, like literally helping you understand everything about those hearing aids and setting them up perfectly and having you understand how they've been set up and why they've been set up that way. So when I start thinking of this camera, I'm thinking like, man, I just spent $7,000 on a piece of hardware and I really have nowhere to go to get help. Now, there probably is a place that I could go to get help, an actual camera store that sells cameras. So I'm getting a little bit of my own medicine here because I tell a lot of people, don't go and buy prescription hearing aids online. It is an absolute ripoff because all they're doing is selling you the tech and they don't give you any support with that tech. And it's the same thing when I decided to purchase this camera online. I'm like, it's a camera. I've worked with cameras for 6 years now, right? This camera that I'm shooting this on is an $800 camera, and I am using that over this $7,000 rig that I have here in my hands. And it's purely because I have no clue what I'm doing, right? I have no clue what I'm doing with cameras, and most people, if they're trying to either set up their own hearing aids or they're going somewhere and they didn't get set up appropriately with their hearing aids, they spent a ton of money for something that is not even working right. If I could show you how bad the quality of the video is with this, I can't even hardly focus in video. with this particular camera, and I basically need help, right? And this is really what it comes down to with hearing aids, is that if you're treating your hearing loss with prescription hearing aids, or even over-the-counter hearing aids, really, if you're treating your hearing loss with hearing aids, those hearing aids are only as good as how they are programmed and set up to function. If you try to purchase hearing aids online and try to set them up yourself, or you have them set up by a company that is essentially remote programming, but they're not doing any verification or validation with you, then you don't know if how you're hearing is actually how you're supposed to be hearing. If this was the first camera I ever got, I would be recording videos with it and being like, I have no clue what I'm doing. Or maybe I just assume that that's just the way I'm supposed to shoot with the camera. That's just what it's supposed to end up looking like, without really knowing how to get the full benefit out of it. And when you think about what you're spending on hearing aids, if you're spending bundled money for hearing aids, meaning the cost of all the services is bundled in with the cost of the actual devices, and you're spending $7 grand, the majority of that money that you just spent on those hearing aids goes to the servicing of those hearing aids, both from initial programming to follow-ups and tweaking and adjusting, as well as ongoing maintenance, usually for a couple of years at least. And if you're not getting a high level of service when you spend that kind of money, then you're essentially being taken advantage of, really, because hearing aids coming from the manufacturer, they don't cost the clinic $6,000–$7,000 to acquire, right? They do cost thousands of dollars to acquire, but several thousands of dollars is marked up onto them typically to cover all of the servicing that is associated with those devices. And so it's when you think about this camera literally costs me $7,000, and that's without any service. Now, if I'm to take this camera and pay someone to help me, it might cost me a couple $100 to a couple $1,000 to have an actual expert with using this Sony FX3 to actually train me how to use it properly. Now, I'm sure that some camera stores would do it for free, just like some audiology clinics will take your hearing aids and do some programming and maintenance for free. I honestly don't feel like they should be doing it for free, because that expertise is actually worth something. I'm probably going to have to spend some money to go into a camera store and have them teach me how to use this camera, because this camera is not $7,000. This camera is worthless currently, right? I spent $7,000 on it, but it is not worth that money. There are a lot of you out there who spent $7,000 on hearing aids, but they're not really worth $7,000. They might even be worthless. They might have ended up in your drawer, which is maybe why you're watching this video right now. I think the moral of the story here is that when you're purchasing anything electronic, right, these devices have become incredibly intuitive. They have auto intelligent features and stuff like that, and so do hearing aids. But if you don't know the foundational, if you don't have a foundational understanding of how this tech works, you are never going to get the full benefit out of it. So, what's my recommendation? Well, when it comes to purchasing cameras, I guess I recommend that you actually go to a camera store that actually gives you training on how to use that camera, especially if you're going to spend this kind of money. And then if you're going to get hearing treatment from a clinic and they're going to charge you good money for those hearing aids, they should be taking the time to train you on how to use those hearing aids appropriately and setting them up in the right way. Because I'll tell you what, in this video down in the description, I will link my best practices checklist. You just go through that link, you enter your email, it will email the checklist to you, and then you can start to evaluate whether or not your hearing care professional was actually giving you what you were paying for, okay? And if you find a really good hearing care professional, all of a sudden you realize that you don't need to do a whole lot more research online. You don't even need to continue to watch my videos. If you find a really good hearing care professional, guess what? They're the ones who takes care of all of this stuff for you, so you don't get stuck with an expensive set of hearing aids only to not be able to use them effectively. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure that you hit that thumbs up button, and I'm gonna go see if I can find a place to teach me how to use this $7,000 paperweight.